Why the hell do we vote on Tuesdays? Specifically, why do we vote on the first Tuesday after the first Monday of November? Did you notice? It just seems like they picked a very random month and date for us to participate in one of the most important systems in America. But actually, there's nothing random about it. It's really one of the most strategic things they actually did back then. And by back then, I mean 1845, when the US government realized they needed to streamline the voting process. Okay, so here's how voting happened before the process we have now. Every state was given a timeline to have their election. They had to have their election within a 34-day window before the first Wednesday in December. Each state could decide when they wanted to have their election, at the beginning of that 34-day window, the middle of that 34-day window, or the end of that 34-day window. But it became clear that the states that had their election earlier in that 34-day period could influence the results of the states that are having their elections later. Let's say Michigan decides to have their election on November 2nd, and North Carolina decides to have their election on December 3rd. You see the problem too? Okay. So to fix this, Congress wanted to have one day where everyone would vote at the same time. Now, what day would that be? They needed a day that most of the population was free to go vote, and most of the population were farmers at that time. So they needed to make sure that voting day was a day that was convenient for farmers. And then they had to consider another issue. The voting booths weren't as central as they are now. It took people at least a day to travel to go vote. They need to consider a travel day, and they need to consider an actual voting day. That's at least 2 days they need to consider. So let's look at the calendar, shall we? There are only 7 days on it. Sunday won't work because they're all religious. They're a church. Okay, hold on. Let's just fast forward and X Wednesday out already, because those were market days. Those are the days they will go out to sell their goods. So that means Wednesday doesn't work for a voting day. Neither does it work for a traveling day. So if Wednesday doesn't work for a traveling day, that means Thursday doesn't work for a voting day. X Thursday out. So we're left with Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday. Saturday does not work for a voting day because, like us, they don't want to be voting on the weekends. Then that means Friday doesn't work for a traveling day. And we're down to Monday and Tuesday. You guessed it. Monday would be the traveling day. Tuesday would be the voting day. And that's how we got stuck with Tuesday. Now, why November? Again, it was convenient for farmers. They weren't busy planting, they weren't busy harvesting, and it wasn't really cold yet, so they could still travel. November's perfect. So why not just choose the first Tuesday in November? Why is it the first Tuesday after the first Monday? Because November 1st is All Saints Day, and they wanted to make sure that voting day never fell on All Saints Day. Simple. So there it is. Americans vote on the first Tuesday after the first Monday of November. But